Today we're going to talk about pricing lawn care in 2024. Every time I shoot a video about pricing lawn care, tons of people watch, tons of people comment, and everybody just really wants to hone in. I get people are starting lawn care companies, they're starting landscape companies, and they're looking for that information, trying to get their price nailed down or understand what they should charge. And I get it because I was there scouring YouTube for what do we charge for lawn care? What do we charge for this? What do we charge for that? So I love always updating these, talking about these every year, thinking about maybe some of the new pieces of this or really boiling it down, distilling it down to the most basic parts. So that's what we're going over today. Let's get right into the thick of it though. So starting off, if you're pricing lawn care, what you need to know is your hourly rate. And this is going to be individual of your company. Like this isn't determined by someone else. This is determined by the cost to run your company. But there's some caveats here, right? Is this the cost your company is going to be at to run it 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 6 years from now? What do you plan to keep? That's one of the big things. What do you plan to build, I guess I should say even better. Because if you price this for how it is operating today, there's very little cost if you just start up. So there's nothing wrong with pricing it lower in the beginning because you have little cost, but you need to quickly raise that as you start to scale, because if you don't, you can run into a very crippling situation where you don't have enough money because you had very low cost at the beginning. Over an amount of time, you got parking, you got storage, you got more equipment, you got maybe an office, and the costs went up and went up and went up, and you stopped covering those costs, and all of a sudden it eats you alive. And it gets very hard as you start adding employees, and their efficiency may not be as fast or will not be as fast as yours because you've got all the skin in the game, right? So there's a bunch of little things to look for here when you're ironing this out. And when we talk about hourly rate, this is a rate to cover the cost of the business, right? All of the overhead expense, all of the payroll, all of these things. So it's a hypothesis of total potential billable hours, how many people are working and spreading cost, because you got to return those costs. You got to recoup all that overhead. You got to recoup all of those expenses and then turn somewhat of a profit to invest in the business in the future. Now, we're not going to break that down. There's multiple different ways to do your numbers. There's multiple different ways to drive hourly cost and calculate this. I have other videos about that. I'm going to point you towards just looking up Jacob Godar and searching man hour rate. You're going to see other videos. I've got simple, I've got complex, and then you should look at all the other ways you can do hourly rates as well, because there's different philosophies. I've shot videos about hourly rates and I've had people tell me how that's wrong. Okay? There is one way to do it here. There's one way to do it here. There's one way to do it here. There's different views of how you recover overhead and all these different things. Do your own research and dig into this, because this is a very important part of business. It should be one of those foundational things that you can put in the sweat equity of just reading about, learning about, and trying to become knowledgeable about how can I go about building this. There's not a magical number. You charge this and you'll be successful. It's starting to understand this, and this is going to get you to where you can start pricing things and pricing mowing, more importantly, because that's what we're talking about today. So go through that, and then to tie in with this, to give you a little market understanding of your specific area. Now, besides just learning about hourly rate and working on what do we need to charge per hour to turn a profit in this business every hour of the day, right? Hourly rate is not just necessarily on site. When you're looking at hourly rates, depending on how they're figured, again, because you might figure in ineffective time throughout the day, so you might just be pricing on site, or you might be needing to turn that rate all day, really depending on how those numbers were done. So with this being said, once you're figuring that out, also do some market research of what are my competitors charging in my local area. And this is as easy as getting quotes from other companies, whether you have a family member do it, whatever. And like if another business owner looks at this video, if you're watching this and you're like, man, that's bullshit, I'd never do that. Dude, it's market research. Every fucking company does it. Get your head out of your ass. Like this is what everyone does. If you don't do it, I'm sorry that you're not taking advantage of the tools you have to have a better business. So market research, look at what other people are pricing. This is not for you to try to beat their price, which in the beginning, yes. If you follow the model of I priced a little bit lower because of my cost and I'm gonna go up with my cost as quickly as possible, you could maybe do a little bit of that, but it's not about comparing, it's just about understanding what this is. And maybe it would even show you, wow, my prices could be way higher than I thought they could be. Because you don't want to get stuck in that trap of, well, I made 20 bucks an hour. If I charge 25 bucks an hour, wow, we're gonna kill it, okay? So that's piece number one of pricing lawn care, hourly rate. Number two, Tracking time, right? You're gonna have to go out if you're starting a lawn care company. You're gonna have to do some stuff. This video is for the people who start and the people who've already got some time and got some lawns. If you're starting, you're gonna have to pick up some lawns. You're gonna have to guess at the time, and then you're gonna have to track the time. If you're already doing lawns and you haven't been tracking time, track the time it takes to do lawns, because you're going to take this information, and this is allowing you to collect data and become more successful, because now we measured times, we measured how much it costs, we measured the variables, and then we can take that. So step 1, know that hourly rate. Step 2, track your time. And step 3 will be, now we're going to take those and we're going to standardize. Right? We're going to standardize a system so we can punch this information out fast. Because for you to win and grow the company, I will tell you, if you're competing against us in pricing lawn care and you have to go to a property, you're going to lose before it starts. Because we will quote 30 lawns today if we have to, and they will be done shortly after we're off the phone, because it's a system. It's not a go out and look at system. It's a system of measuring online, looking at the property, punching out. It's all standardized and it's done. In this day and age, people want speed. They want, okay, I called, I want to be able to get my info right now. A lot of people will buy purely based on the fact that, like, that's a good first example of how our company is going to operate, right? The first impression can be everything. And so your prices might even be able to be higher because of this. So we're going to distill all the information we've got into a standardized system. And how do we do that? Well, we can do it in a CRM like what we use. We use Service Autopilot. I know a lot of the different service CRMs will allow you to do this. Build out a template, and then you put in the square footage, you measure the property, and it punches out the price. Or you can do this on an Excel sheet, just the same. But before you get into the questions about standardizing and you're like, well, I can't do this, there's too many variables, la da 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 da, I get it. There's variables in everything. A lot of people do this. We are extremely successful with it as a company. There are some pieces for you to put into place for this pricing structure to keep you safe. So if you're going to standardize lawns, you're going to look at a lawn that's 5,000 square foot, maybe 10,000 and 15,000. These are just examples. This isn't exact numbers. And you're going to look at that 5,000 square foot lawn. You're going to look at the easy lawn, the medium lawn, and the hard lawn. Easy lawn, nothing to weed eat around. Maybe it's just a lot. Medium lawn, house is in the center. Hard lawn, fence, gnomes, everything to weed eat around, right? So you got variables. So in our company, we created an ABC. This could be 1, 2, 3, whatever you want, system of judging variables on a property. Because when you look at an overhead of Google Earth or whatever the measuring tool you use is, most of them are powered off of Google Earth, you're going to be able to see what's going on there. If you look at the street view and you look at the overhead, unless a lot of stuff's changed recently, you're going to have a good idea of the variables. So now we can pick based off of that. We've got it standardized off square footage, and then we've got variables based on how hard it is. Then we move into the literature that now protects you. Once this quote goes out, it says right in the quote, this quote was done off of GPS to offer you an immediate estimate for our service, whatever you want to say it. Like, we want to offer the best customer service when we give you an expedited estimate so you have what you need when you need it. That is all how this is for them. Now we also add in there, however you want to say that. That could be anything. Hey, this is a GPS estimate. We like to expedite our estimates, and this is how we do those to offer you that service. Now there's the tail end of that with, if we get on site and we find anything is different than it was in GPS, there may be a need to adjust your price in the future. So it's trust the system, but then verify if something was wildly wrong. So if you got teams going out there, they say, wow, this property is this takes way more time. Or the other things you're thinking about, what if the lawn's overgrown? Okay, we also have the piece in there that if your lawn's severely overgrown, we may charge up to double the cost. If your lawn is beyond severely overgrown and it is deemed a cleanup, our crew that stops at that property will tell the office the time it takes to do the cleanup. We'll circle back with you, let you know what that cleanup will cost, and then we'll still be able to proceed. So no matter what, it's covered. All those what ifs, those situations are covered up front. You want to always do this in a business. You want to talk about the problems. I want to try to tell you everything. Hey, if we get there and it's bigger, it could cost more. Hey, if we get there and it's a cleanup, we won't even be able to mow it. It's all right there for them to make their original decision so they know what they're getting. So when you put these two things, or when you put these three things, I should say, together, when you put knowing your hourly rate, then tracking your time, finally standardizing that and all distilling that down into something where you can just punch in the square footage. We can measure the property, punch in the square footage, boom. there's an estimate. I'm gonna answer one final question that I know all of you are thinking right this second. I would be too, because I haven't said it. Is it just grass or is it the total lot? For me, in my company, we measure mowing, we price mowing based off of total lot square footage. That means we measure the very outside limits of that property, sidewalks, driveways, everything, the house, all included. And the answer to why is because just a house adds problems, adds variables, adds complexities. So if we didn't measure a house, that all drives more issues. Going around a driveway, it'd be easier to cut a driveway area if you just blasted across it. Same for a house. If you were just able to fly up and down a lot, it would be faster than going around the house and having to weed eat around the house. So we always use in our company total lot square footage. Maybe yours is gonna be different and you figure out a way where you just do it through turf. Now, like on our fertilization weed control side, it doesn't really cause us much challenge to go around things, so we do purely based off of turf there. So I hope this has shed some light on pricing, giving you some groundwork. The crappy thing about this, and I understand, is it's not a, hey, charge this and you will be successful. I have no idea. No one has an idea of what your company costs to run. And unless they're a consultant that comes and looks at your numbers, looks at your past revenues, your past expenses that you had, what you spent on marketing, all of these things, to try to project that out into the future, which numbers are all made up anyway, because all budgeting and all of this is just, we're trying to make the best guess we can. And if it all happens to operate similar with growth, then cool, we did well. But who knows? It could be wildly different. So we've got to leave some room in there, some wiggle room. And this number, that's why you can't just be like, boom, that's the right number that's gonna fit all companies. So do this, do the groundwork, do a lot of reading. A lot of people say it's so hard to have a company. It is, it's a lot of work to build a company. And it's especially a lot of work to build a company, start hiring employees, and then try to scale the thing. But when people struggle with numbers and the money and all of this, like, I have my stresses over monies, I say, all the monies, because we're consistently scaling and pouring a lot of money into something. But when people talk about the groundwork, ground level, we were able to turn a profit very, very early, because really day one, because I was able to educate myself on those numbers and know, hey, this is like what we need to be billing, that we need to be tracking those things. So even though someone's not giving you an exact number, telling you that you need to understand and pay attention to stuff from day one is gonna make you 1,000% more successful, is gonna keep you out of that trench of making the mistake of just, hey, I charge what everybody else charges, and you've been given the gold nugget of business is gonna get more expensive. Be expecting that in the future. You might have to raise existing clients. You have to raise new oncoming clients to meet those new demands of capital in your company. So if this has helped you, share this with somebody else, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you soon.